I'm reading from the book Path to Happiness. The keyword surrender relates to dying and the word yes in the 7-word system. At the very moment that we gasped our first breath, it became certain that we would one day sigh our last. We have been approaching death all our lives with no possibility of reprieve. Powerless in the inevitability, we have no chance about it, and like everyone else, princess or pauper, must surrender in the end. Yet we do have a choice about how to surrender. We can raise a white flag, lower our heads and feel defeated, or we can offer ourselves willingly as if to a lover. Surrender can be bitter or sweet, to an enemy or to our beloved, and it really does matter which approach we take. According to Sufi teaching, it matters because we create the circumstances of our next reality out of what is held in the emotional mental body as we release our very last exhalation. In this passage moment, it is important to be thinking positive thoughts and feeling a peaceful sense of anticipation. The mood best suited to this ultimate adventure is naked trust, coupled with delightful fascination, as if with your best and only lover. Nakedness implies vulnerability and the absence of defenses, and is also suggestive of the willingness to embrace. If we want to have heart joy in the moment of passing, then we can learn to embrace death as a lover and dying as cosmic foreplay. On leaving this world, we return at first to the Astral Plane. A film with Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come, shows a version of this realm. On this plane, the reality that we inhabit is clearly, immediately, and dramatically created in each instant as a reflection of what we have in the mind. Indeed, this is the same process as that on Earth, but here it is so much slower that the causal relationship is not at all obvious and appears not to be so. The mind can be very disturbed and restless, and is as easily able to imagine monsters as rose gardens. On Earth, the slowness protects us from foolish dreams and ideas suddenly taking form. Yet on the astral, no such safety device exists. It is time to face all of our dreams, nightmares too. On the astral plane, nothing is brought forward except for the mind, with its ability to shape our surroundings and responses to what occurs. This ability is exactly what is promoted and developed through meditation and prayer. These are mental exercises. They train the mind so that it learns not to wander too far off topic or indulge in frightful fantasies, useful talents in any realm. A strangely apt metaphor for how the mind can be readied for the astral plane experience is found in flirting. The thing about flirting is that its fascination lies in the very uncertainty of what it might lead to. It could be nothing, yet it could be everything. The mind orients so as to read the subtle signs in an ever-changing, highly charged atmosphere. It is backed up by feelings that have to be held around the midpoint between promise fulfilled and possibility denied, hinting at the potential for passion whilst maintaining poise. This is the best mindset for dying, since every breath theoretically could be our last, and one day one of them will be. The irony is delicious, using sex games for dying, not birthing. Also, of course, flirting is light-hearted fun, and death, having been heavily burdened with so much inappropriate seriousness and pessimism, could use a bit of that. Long before death itself threatens immediacy, the Sufi will study the practice called die before you die. This means living each moment as if death is nearby. To live in this way requires, and so develops, an attitude of surrender, and yet this is coupled with a sense of celebration. This is because each breath is proof that the previous one was not the end, so the preciousness of existence is remembered, and it is remembered in every moment as a constant of life. This is in no way significantly different from the Hindu practice of sannyasin. All attachments are surrendered one by one. position, security, purpose, and all things familiar, until at last life itself is released. The practice robs death of its tyrannical power and turns it into a collaborator with no other duty than to receive the final exhalation. It has no claim over the dying itself. Dying thus becomes an aspect of life and not an aspect of death. In this last breath, the culmination of our lives is best expressed as calm assurance that all is well and just about to get a lot better, because we have the faith that it will. All of our relationships change as family and friends modify their involvements with us. Death is mysterious and powerful, and they simply cannot know what we are feeling as we move towards meeting it. Their own feelings can be triggered deeply in the anticipation of loss, of radical change, and of an unpredictable future without us. As with most things, the intensity of an experience becomes richer and more honest as it approaches the end. Loved ones identify the deepest truth of our meaning in their lives, through which we gain valuable insights into how well we have lived. Their love and respect will carry forward to the next chapter as defining qualities within us. When we compare the worth of their love to the worth of our life achievements, we come to measure ourselves as between whether ego or soul has been more influential in structuring the features of our lives. It is not only relationships that feature differently. All the little things reveal their life preciousness. The crackle of an open fire, the colours of the sunset, and the scent of honeysuckle become as soul-ticklingly delightful as the smile of a granddaughter with jam on her face. It is easy to see that it is not the fire, flower, or sunset that have all become special. This is an inner quality that we have realized within ourselves, arising out of surrender. In this blessed state of being, we learn that beauty, love, and joy, like all things, come out of us, but we have to choose them, and they are revealed. How sad that we have had no such realizations earlier, yet how glorious that we should be rewarded now with this embodied insight. We can be completely relaxed, knowing that unless we stress against it, then life itself, even now, is more glorious, more beautiful and loving than anything we could ever imagine. Poet and teacher Leonard Cohen captures this idea, advising us to slip into the masterpiece, where to discover the mystery of life. The mystery is like a ball of uncommitted energy with a center and edge, swirling and shifting restlessly, shaped by determined enthusiasts, loved by the loving and feared by the fearful. In this context, we see that life and death are not substantively different things, except perhaps that death punctuates the changes more dramatically, and except for birth is the most intense expression of life. Its main purpose is to re-energize and re-inspire a tired soul and to move things along. A person whose life was circumscribed with doubts and obedience will be less likely to enjoy an easy passage than a person strong in faith and bubbling with enthusiasm. And so perhaps these are the qualities to live by, so that we can die by them too: calm faith and passionate enthusiasm.
In regard to surrender, I don't have a question, but I do have some comments. I'm right with you in what you say in paragraph 6 about the practice of die before you die. I remember one day suddenly realizing that I'd been dying my way through life, and that each death produced more joy and lightness and inner peace. Sometime later, I felt nudged to write a book about it, Hello, Little Death, welcoming dying to allow a fuller life. And of course, it uses the 7-word structure, because this way I knew that I would be covering all aspects. So no question here, just a big yes and a vote for die before you die.
Yes, this whole wisdom, die before you die, it's not particularly a Sufi wisdom. It's present within the Christian teachings and no doubt elsewhere. Die before you die. What does it mean? Well, it means accept and surrender that death is inevitable, and imagine that right now this is a process of dying that we're in the middle of. So, as you rightly point out, all of our lives are spent dying. We lose certain abilities. I mean, after the beginning, when we're no longer children, we start losing facilities. That the mind becomes a little bit slower after the age of 18 or something, and so on. We keep on losing facilities again and again and again, and the whole of our adult life is spent dying. So now we're coming to the end of that process, and the final dying will lead to death. And this could be just a continuation of how it's been throughout the whole of life, if we learn to die before we die. And in other words, before it's actually told to us by a doctor that, we're going soon, we just imagine, actually, look, we're going soon anyway, we know that. Or even if it's not soon, it's inevitable that it's coming at some point. So we have to give up things that we can't do anymore. And what we can't do anymore is we can't live yesterday. This is the primary thing. That exhalation that I've just let go of, I can't do that again. This conversation that I've just had, this interaction with that person, I can't do that again. That's one of the things that has been dying in my life, everything in the past. So we can't repeat anything, we can't do it again. That makes this particular moment very special. It's unique and it's not replicable. So we have to live fully in order that we should be able to die before we die. We fill our lives with attachments, things mainly, also people. And some of them are valid, but most of them really are not. So to begin this practice, it's good to let go of those things that you don't need anymore, activities that don't serve you anymore, people that really aren't loving or inspiring or even truthful. Just withdraw from those things. Let them go. Focus on what is real, what is deep and true and authentic and important on the absolute level. And commit to that fully. And do that whatever age you are, whatever age. That's how to die before you die. And it brings you a sense of grace, serenity and peacefulness that makes life very much more alive and sparkling. To die before you die is a gateway to live while you can live. Now the wazifa practice for this keyword surrender is ahad, ya, samad. Ahad means eternal oneness. And for us to affirm that sense in which we are one with the one, we find that place within the heart, which is the heart of God. And we notice that when we are in that position, looking for the heart of God within the heart, we notice that we are within the heart of God, that the heart of God is within us, and we are within the heart of God simultaneously. And that's because there is nothing but oneness. That's the meaning that we're trying to embody with the feeling of ahad. Now, samad is a sense of eternity. The image is of a wave of sound. In the beginning was the Word, but it didn't stop there. It just continued to exist throughout eternity. And this Word, in other words, this sort of vibration of which one form is sound, which we're calling the words, it's just vibration began. And that sound is eternal, and its purpose in its function and its only reality is to restore order and harmony eternally. So there is this force within all life forever that's just the Word of God, and it brings everything back to a state of harmony and grace. All the clashings and the bangings and the war and the torture and the terribleness and all of that stuff, it's just until we reaffirm this Word of God, Samad. And then it's all back to a pristine condition of grace. And we don't have to wait for that next year or tomorrow. We just have to return to that remembrance of that pristine state of grace. Ahad Ya Samad, eternal oneness. We're one with the One, and it's great, and it always will be. Absolute faith that this is the best game in town, the only game in town, and it's fine. The only reason that it's not fine is because that's what you choose it to be, not fine, until you learn that you don't like that any better, and you just return to God and return to oneness. Ahad Ya Samad. Ahad Ya Samad. Ahad Ya Samad. Ahad Ya Samad. Ameen.